guys? Welcome back to the Stop Renting podcast. This is Kara, Rod. Today we're going to talk about the number one mistake that people make when selling their home, which is
when you overprice your home.
Correct.
There's several consequences.
So many.
Can impact your ability to sell effectively.
Correct. So I think that's the most obvious one is that if you overprice the house, you are effectively, you're making it so much more difficult for people to come and see the house. Say you price it at 400 and it should be 360.
Yeah.
First of all, anybody who said that they don't want to go above 375, you lost that buyer. Anybody who's seen another property in that neighborhood at 350 and then sees yours at 400 is going to say, nope, that's overpriced.
Yep.
If your price per square footage is off,
yeah,
every buyer's agent who knows what they're doing, when they come, they're going to look at the numbers. They're going to ask, their buyers are going to ask, is this home well priced?
Well, yeah.
And then
what do you think? What are your thoughts?
Yeah. We get that question all the time. And then we do our own comparative market analysis, usually based on price per square foot, unless there's a pool or something. And then very simply, the home is overpriced.
Yeah.
And then it's never a good thing for the buyer to hear, unless the house is something magical. But if it's a normal 3-2 with a pool, every buyer that hears that's going to be like, okay, what are we going to offer?
Yeah,
we're not going to give them their full price because it's overpriced.
Right. They'll be on the fence about it too.
They'll be on the fence. They even put in an offer. So yeah, we'll go into the individual details, but yeah, you're effectively shooting yourself in the foot.
Basically.
Hard.
Yep, hard. So limited buyer interest.
Yeah, so we talked about if you're beyond, people usually when we have clients call us like, hey, Rod or Kara, we want a 3-2 in Sarasota under 375. If your home is actually worth 365, but you've forced your listing agent to list it at 400, you just lost that buyer. And that's not a random buyer. That's a lot of buyers are like that.
Yeah.
They have a price point because of their pre-approval.
Right.
So by overpricing it, and again, you might think, well, if it's worth 375, let's start at 400 and work backwards.
Yeah, but no, it
doesn't work that way.
And you won't get that.
You won't get that, exactly.
Especially if you're overpricing it like that. Unless someone, no offense, but comes in and not knows what they're doing, then maybe. But
you don't want to sell your house.
Very slim chance.
Yeah, you don't want to sell your house hoping that the buyer's agent that comes in is naive or doesn't know what they're doing, or some random person off the street comes in without an agent and just gives you your full price offer, which again, it's not. If it's overpriced, that's not
unless, like you said, it was like magical and there was something really unique and special, and you're like, this sets you apart.
Correct.
Sure, then that's what you would value in, and that's what you'd explain to the buyers coming in, like why it's priced the way it is.
Correct.
But besides that,
if it's something super unique, that's probably the only time you should overprice. That's the only
rare case.
Yeah. Other than that, you should either be right at the market, or more as a better option, you should be slightly below the market, a few percent. And then the market will move its way up there. We'll get you your price. Especially if you price it very well, you should get multiple offers.
Right.
Hopefully some that are going over your asking price, or at the very least, you can negotiate better terms for yourself as a seller.
Right.
As opposed to trying to get every little last penny out of the top end.
Yeah. Then you can have room if you're saying, hey, we have a couple offers coming in. That gives you more room. To allow. You can go up then at that point.
Correct.
Or like you said, and negotiate and make it work better for you with the terms.
Yeah. You can have shorter inspection period, no seller credits. Depending on what you're offering on buyer side commission, you can probably get away with a little bit less. Yep. So there's a lot of things that you open yourself up to in a positive way when you price slightly below the market. Right at the market, again, it's very difficult because there's no such thing as market value. It's based on what somebody's willing to buy it from you. So it's all just a guesstimate. So trying to nail it perfectly is not a good option either. You want to be slightly below because you're putting yourself in a better position, negotiating position when those offers come in.
Right. Extended time on market.
Yeah, that's the worst one, because I would say for every week that you're on the market past like a month, there's negative consequences. I think it's on there, but the word that I love to use is stale.
I was looking stale. Yeah.
Stale. Yep. When a house has been on the market for like 2-3 months, regardless, it could be gorgeous, staged, curb appeal, everything. If it's been on there for more than 2 or 3 months, every single person, every buyer's agent, everybody's going to look at it and be like, what's wrong?
Yeah, they question it. They're like, what's wrong? I've had tons of buyers say like, well, why is it sitting for so long? What's wrong?
Yeah.
Like what's going on. Or if it did come off the market or why is it keep getting price reduced? Yeah. They question it. It does not look good. It puts something in their head.
It puts something in their heads from the get-go. We talked about first impressions on the last episode, and that's the first one. It's like 400, but they've been on there for 96 days. What's going on?
What's wrong?
And I get that question at least 2 or 3 times a week, and my honest answer 9 out of 10 times it's overpriced.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with the house. The house is, I can pull the permits on the roof, the AC, it looks nice inside.
Everything.
Yeah, pool might not be leaking. Pool's great, but it's overpriced, and that's why they're sitting on the market for an extended period of time.
I feel like that's always like our number one answer to that.
Because it's the truth. Yeah, it's not just our go-to answer. It's the truth.
Yeah, it's the truth. Reduced negotiating power. So we talked about that.
Yeah, because then all the offers that come in are going to be below where you're at, which means you're going to be on the defensive as a seller. You're not going to be able to negotiate. To be frank, especially now with the new NRA settlement, every offer that we're putting in beyond 2 or 3 months, we're asking for our full 3% commission, because we are in, as the buyer and the buyer's agent, we are in the strong position because you've overpriced and you're sitting on the market. You're 3 months on the market. You haven't had any offers. You're still not pending. So you're
kind of giving the power.
You're handing the power over by overpricing. To try to save maybe 5-10 grand, which you're going to end up losing because you're going to pay it either way when you get a lower offer or lower price.
Appraisal issues.
Yeah. So we dealt with this a lot during COVID. Obviously, the prices were fluctuating and going up quite a bit. But if the person who's buying the house, again, I keep using the 400, but say you price it at 400. It's
very generic.
It's very generic. Yeah. Well, that's the average, I think. Whatever. So whatever, 400, you price it at 400, you get lucky. You get somebody come in financing, pre-approved at 400. When you get a mortgage, 9 times out of 10, you have to get an appraisal, you as the buyer, which means the appraiser for the mortgage company goes out, reviews the property, looks at the comps, and they give a price of what they think it's the fair market value. You're under contract at 400. If the appraiser comes back and says, nope, that house is actually worth 375, now you're in an even worse position, because you as the seller have to then, you're going to get presented that from the buyer side. They're going to say, hey, this house appraised at 375. Few options. Either A, we can cancel the contract because financing is going to fall through. You have to return the escrow money deposit because it's a financing contingency. You failed. The property failed to meet the financing obligation. Or you have to find what to do with the $25,000. The buyer is probably not more than likely going to come up with 25 grand in cash on top of their other down payment and closing costs. Or you as a seller have to come down 25 grand. Or you can risk going back to, like we talked about before, you can risk going back to the open market after going pending. You're still going to have to,
like such a hurdle and more work to go through again. And then you're going to get hurt even more.
Yeah, because then you're going to go back to the market. You can say, oh, well, we'll just go back at 375. Nobody's going to give you 375 because you already went pending. You came off the market.
And people are going to question why, what happened.
Yeah, and you're probably, at this point, you're probably going to already be 2 or 3 months. So you're going to get 360 or 350. So easy example of like the house very well might have been worth 375.
I mean, yes, it sucks. Like, okay, we'll go down 25,000, but you probably just should at that point. It is what it is. Basically, it is what it is.
No, and I think I like that example because it's like you're trying to get the extra 25, and by reaching for that extra 25, you're actually going to be losing 25 on the back end when it's all said and done.
Right.
Yeah, and we've seen it happen. Appraisals are a real thing, and then with the prices fluctuating the way that they are and adjusting, and interest rates and election, blah blah blah, they'll adjust. And if you overprice it, there's ways that people can find out, like mortgage companies can find out, and buyers, what the exact price should be.
Right. Stale listing perception.
Yeah. So we talked about first impressions. If it's after 3 months, I don't think there's a single buyer out there that's not going to look at it and question why you've been on the market for 3 months.
Right. No, I was just reading this. Yeah, it can lead to further price reductions, attract new interest. Yep. Stale listing. We don't want it. That's a no-go.
Yeah.
Market competitiveness.
Yeah. So with everything that we've talked about, commissions and all this stuff, like, and pricing and terms, you want to be competitive. That's the reality. Like when you go to sell a house, you're offering that house, whether you do it for sale by owner or with an agent, you are presenting that property to the market, and it's a competitive market. Your house is, unless your house is super unique, I'm not talking to you, but for normal people, like 3-2 with a pool or without a pool, it's that property is not unique in and of itself.
Right.
So you have to present it as best as possible to the market. The same way as if you're selling anything, you want it to look nice. You want to take nice pictures. You want it to be priced well. You want
it's a sales thing. I mean, you're trying to sell your home.
Yeah.
So like, you know, you've got
you have to present it as best as possible. And the price is one of the main things that if you just like, and I would say this, at least from personal experience, buyers that I talk, it looks bad too. Like when you overprice the home, not only does it reflect poorly on the property, but in a way it reflects poorly on the seller, because then the buyer's going to have that idea in their mind. Like,
I've heard people say that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. Like, absolutely not.
Yeah. And you try to, obviously as a buyer's agent, you try to keep people's emotions in check and say, hey, well, they think it's worth this because of maybe that or this. But at the end of the day, like the same as like when you don't stage the house or you don't nice curb appeal, any little negative thing that you can do, that sits in a buyer's mind. And that might have been the buyer that would have bought the house if not for whatever 10 or 15 grand in the wrong direction. So yeah, it's no bueno.
So that's about it really. But to avoid these pitfalls, it's crucial to work with a knowledgeable real estate agent.
Correct. And I would say, and I would say trust your agent. Don't think that just because if an agent gives you pushback, respectfully, obviously, and with knowledge, but if an agent gives you pushback on, hey, I think we should price it here, and it's below where you think the property is worth, hear them out. Because yes, you could probably just say, hey, thank you, have a nice day to that realtor, and then find somebody else who's willing to overprice it. But at the end, you're going to walk away with less money. And I think that's
like factored in, like listen to what they're saying to you and understand why. I mean, there's a reason. We're not just making this up. Like, you know, we want to help you.
Yeah. Well, you can look at the average days on market, and after properties sit on the market for an extended period of time, the chances you get your full price are very slim. And homes that sell within a week or two usually get their full asking price and more than likely better terms for the seller. So I think it's very important, again, like just because somebody's willing to list it an agent's willing to overprice it, does not mean you should overprice it. And obviously, if you want to overprice it as for sale by owner, that can be a whole nother episode. That's not going to work even worse than overlisting it with a listing agent. But yeah, so just be very cognizant. Understand there is negatives. That idea of let's overprice and we can always work backwards. It works, but very rarely. It looks bad. It doesn't. It's not effective in the market.
Yeah. Just be smart with your pricing, and that's why you have your agent to help you with it and listen to what they have to say and trust them.
Yeah, and there's strategies behind pricing, and I think that's the best way I've ever heard it described, is that the price is just a strategy.
Yeah.
Like that's part of your overall presentation to the market. That's a part of it. And it's a part that if you do wrong, it affects it the same way as doing other things wrong when you go to listing. So yeah, it's a part of it. And just because that's the price that you're asking doesn't mean that you're guaranteed to get that price. Right. So it's better to price it, like I said, slightly below the market, give yourself better terms. And you're not, if you think it means that you're giving up equity, you're really not, because the chances are if you overprice it, you're going to end up giving away more equity. Or have worse or have worse terms when it comes to it, extended closing, blah blah blah, long extension period, all things that affect you. And at the end of the day, like the point is to walk away, you as a seller, to walk away with the most amount of money. So overpricing it is probably the worst way to try to guarantee that. There's other things that you can do that guarantee that you walk away the most amount of money. Get a good a good listing agent, commission, staging, curb appeal, everything we talked about. But overpricing, it's part of the strategy.
It's like step one.
Correct. It is the most important part, but it's part of it. And yeah, I think that's the best takeaway I would say. Just like it's part of the strategy. It's not the whole strategy.
No.
But if you
overprice it, plan.
Yeah. If you overprice it, there's gonna be negative side effects.
I agree. Well, that's about it for overpricing.
Yeah. So please don't overprice.
Don't do it. Yeah. So long story short, don't do it.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Listen to us.
Yes. So cool. Yeah. Thank you guys. Have a good one.
Thank you.